Okay, so as many of you know, I've been trying to lose some weight over the past couple of months. How's it going? Well, let's have a look. Bad, pretty bad. But here's the thing, I noticed something very, very interesting. So as I'm going for my workouts, one of the most interesting things that I noticed was that my heart rate was elevated. So with an elevated heart rate, basically what's happened is I've done something called deloading, basically. So I deloaded my workout, which is not exactly great when you're trying to do things like build strength, particularly when you build strength. And then the other one is when you're, well, trying to regain stamina, right? So one thing that I'm doing for weight loss is more cardio. Why do more cardio? Well, if I do more cardio, right, I build up my heart muscles. By building up the heart muscles, it allows me to build up my endurance. And as I build up my endurance, it means I can lift heavier. Why? Because there's a thing in sports science which says that when you recover, right, if you go for a HIIT exercise and when you recover, well, there's two theories. One theory is that you're kind of slightly immunocompromised. So basically you shouldn't be going out for a beer, you shouldn't be going out for alcohol, all that kind of stuff, especially when you've gone for a hard workout. Why is that? Because your immune system is repairing all the damaged tissue, right, which has happened during that particular workout. Yeah. So if you're in a state whereby your body is actively recovering, right? Sometimes, when you come out of things like Muay Thai, for example, and you're all sweaty, right? This is why the coach tells you, put something on. Why? Because it's there to help you, to prevent you from getting colds, right? You're susceptible to colds and things like that because your body is cooling itself down and trying to move out all the lactic acid from your muscles. So as it's trying to move out all the lactic acid, right? This is why sometimes, right? This is what I've noticed in my own training. Because not deloaded, deconditioned. That's what I meant to say. I was deconditioned. So because I'm deconditioned, basically what's happened is you have your heart rate, right? So I have one of these things. You might have seen it in the gym, right? I have one of these. If it will lock down, okay. I don't know if you can see it, right? I have a TRX3 basically. So with the TRX3, what it allows me to do, if the camera will center. Okay, very good. So with the TRX3, what it means is I can get my telemetry for my heart rate, my epoch, right, which is basically the amount of oxygen that I have in the bloodstream via intense exercise. So when I do HIIT, for example. So when I'm doing all of that stuff, basically what I'm seeing is, how fit I am. And what I noticed was very interesting. Basically, as I've not been going to do Muay Thai and gym and all that kind of stuff, I've come to the conclusion that actually I need to do a little bit more, right? Because it's going to increase my stamina as well. So as I'm increasing my stamina, I'm actually reconditioning my body for those kind of types of situations whereby stamina then becomes the goal, right? As well as endurance. So how's that going to help me to lose weight? Well, one of two ways. Either, depending on how I eat, right, it's going to recondition my body, which means that I end up turning the fat into muscle, but not necessarily weighing more. It's going to be more upon maintenance. So what that means is I end up in a place whereby even though I'm eating the same amount, right, I'm still fit and I'm still healthy because my body looks aesthetically different in terms of the amount of muscle mass which I have and the fat ratio. Just means that I lean more towards the muscle than I do the fat. I'll weigh the same, but it's less fat and more muscle, basically. So that's one way. The second way is if I reduce my calories, the second way is this, is thermodynamics. Basically, in physics, you have the laws of thermodynamics, which basically means that if calories in, calories out, but it depends on the transference of energy. So basically what it means is if you expend more energy than you intake, so in other words, you're in caloric deficit, right? In sports terms, then what that means is you end up losing weight, and you can end up losing weight because you're not eating as much, basically. So that's the other one. Now, I'm kind of in a calorie surplus at the moment. So what that means is that I'm eating more calories than I actually need for my session. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's more on the bulking side of things. So as I'm, going towards that bulk, I have to be a bit careful not to excessively eat. Because if I'm eating excessively, then, I get to the situation which I'm in now, which is piling on weight. So to tell you how extraordinary the challenge is, right? When I was in the gym and I was at the peak level of fitness, I was 60 kgs. Now 60 kgs is a little bit too light for the amount of intense workouts that I was doing at the time. It didn't make much sense, right? Now, you won't believe this, I'm 77 kilos, right? And 77 kilos is actually better for a man of my stature. Why is that? Because at 60, right, I'm very, very agile, but I've not got a lot of muscle to do things like Muay Thai, where I need a balance between muscle and power, right? Because a lot of the exercises are what's called plyometric, right? They're more designed for very high intense workouts with a bit of strength, right? So explosive movements. So as they're explosive, then what that means is, being light is very good for agility, and then it also helps you with that as well, which is good, right? But you do need a little bit of power behind every punch. So you have to accelerate the body more. In some ways, you end up expending more energy because of it, right? Because of the whole physics behind the mechanics of the body. So, force is equal to mass times acceleration, right? If the mass is lower, then it means that my acceleration is higher, right? For every punch that I do, for every kick that I do, for every type of movement, which is good in a way. It means that you can catch your opponent off guard. But you can also go the opposite way, which is, well, I've got less acceleration and more mass, so when I'm punching, I've got more force behind my punch. That's why when you battle a heavier opponent, right, you get pushed back because that's what's happening. You're punching that way, right? But anyway, going back to my story, one of the things that I noticed was that my heart rate doesn't go down by 12 beats per minute like it should do after a minute of rest. I mean, it sort of does, but not exactly in the way that I would like it. So my VO2 max, which is basically my highest heart rate, that's at 178. Now at my peak, that would be 190, right? 190. Is it sustainable for me at 170 at my age? Yeah, that's okay. That's not too bad. Right? At 180, that's not too bad. 170, that's not too bad. At 190, it's detrimental. And even at 170, I would say it's detrimental. Why? Because it puts a lot of strain on the heart, which can lead to things like, ooh, that was fast, like pulmonary heart failure. And it can also lead to things like, it can lead not necessarily heart disease, but heart degeneration, because of the way in which the cell walls work within the heart, right? So you can have a very, very thick-walled cell in the heart, which can stop the circulation of blood throughout your body. Basically, it's pumping out either too much or too little. There's something in there as well, but I can't remember exactly what it is. But it's something around those lines. Basically, it's to do with the amount of blood going through the body. Now, if you've got thick cell walls, that's a little bit better. You have to be very careful as well with that. You can't just have very, very thick cell walls. It can lead to a lot of problems. So I wouldn't recommend necessarily going out for a run every single time. Like with intensity, I would say just go for a moderate run. If you're going, if your heart rate is between 150, I'd say between 120 and 150, you're probably doing all right, in general. But again, it's your age though, right? It depends on your age. So I'm 33, so I can get away with quite a high heart rate, but somebody who's more senior, 114, 100 is probably around where they're going to be. and that's where we want to keep them for their VO2 max. If we exceed that, then we end up with paperwork basically, so I wouldn't recommend that either. So yeah, that was one thing that I noticed was deconditioning. And with deconditioning, basically you end up with a lot of lactic acid in the body. So what I noticed was that my heart rate was sustained, and because my heart rate is sustained, the problem then becomes, well, I need to move that lactic acid out of my body. So that's where the panting comes in, go it's because we're moving out that lactic acid, and then we're moving that as carbon dioxide outside of the system. And because we're doing that, that's helping the body to recover. Yeah, so that's one thing that I found very, very interesting. So now, to get rid of this 15 kilos, I'm gonna probably have to work on the diet a little bit, but go to the gym more. I'm already at 1,000. Oh, no, I'm not. How much did I do? So I did 954. And now my second workout, I did 772, and then I've just done 648. So I'm around about 2,300 calories down totally this week, which is great. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic. And I think I'm just a little bit higher than that. I'm probably around 2,500 calories deficit, because I went for yoga yesterday, which was awesome as well. So if I go to Muay Thai tomorrow, I could be looking around, a 3,000 calorie deficit, if you like. So minus 3,000 calories from my total of the week, which is not bad at all. That is actually pretty good. Now it's just getting consistent at it and getting that heart rate up, so that way, I get those BPMs into the minimums. So currently my resting heart rate can be anywhere between 80 to 100 beats per minute, which is insane. I mean, that is quite high, to be honest. And then my low range, is around 120 to 130, right? So yeah, I think it's a little high, on the high end for me personally. Like 190 is a little bit too high. But going down towards the, sorry, not 190, but the 90 beats per minute on the resting is a little bit too high. If I go down towards like 70 to 60, 70 being a sweet spot, I think is decent. That's where I want to, I think that's going to be my aim, is going to be, get it down to around 70 beats per minute. And then after, a minute of rest, I should be getting closer towards 130 beats per minute for, my next activity. If I can get down to those ranges, then my fitness has increased despite my body weight, which is good, which is very good. And then drink more water as well. That's another thing, guys. That's another thing I want to share with you. Do not underestimate hydration. Please, 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 please do not underestimate hydration. Even when I'm going to Muay Thai, when I'm going to the gym, there's too many guys in there which are not drinking enough water. And that's going to lead to things like spinal dehydration, right? Spinal dehydration is not a nice thing. It can ruin your discs in the back of your spine. My mom has spinal dehydration as well, and I've told her same thing: rehydrate the discs, right? Using water, literally, right? It's called dehydration because the hydration, right? There's no hydrogen inside of the discs. So if there's no hydrogen, what do? We need to put hydrogen back in the discs. So what do? Drink water. Why? Because it's hydrogen and oxygen, right? Amazingly, it's not called hydroxide, which is kind of interesting, really, because it's 2 atoms of hydrogen and and 1 atom of oxygen, when it should be H2O2 really, but that becomes heavy water. So yeah, fair enough. So yeah. So don't underestimate hydration. Hydration is very, very important. If you need to drink in the gym, go drink in the gym. Drink as much as you need. Just don't drink too much where, if you're going for cardio and you get a stitch, that's generally something you want to avoid, basically. So yeah, that's kind of what I've learned at the moment with my weight loss journey and my kind of weight loss things, and also my PT stuff as well. So, if that helps, if you want more information, then let me know. Leave a like or leave something in the comments. Like, I don't know, put something like fitness in the comments, right? And I'll show you more details on my weight loss journey and the sort of things that I'm going to be doing to not only lose weight, right? But if I can't lose weight, I'll give you the information for reconditioning as well. So let me know, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.